I want a one-on-one. Yes, please. A one-on-one. Just me and you. Hi, CJ. How are you? Listen, everybody else is asleep and they don't know that we're starting early. So it really is just going to be me and you for a little bit. They're going to miss the beginning, but it's okay because we're going for a while today. And I have to make sure that I get it all in today and I don't do it tomorrow too. And I hope my sound is fine. I hope I'm loud enough and the video is loud enough, and that's all I hope for. All right. Today, children, today we are going to see body cam of him getting arrested, which confuses me a lot because he is in the hospital with her. We heard the doctors and two nurses say that he was in the hospital with her. But he got arrested. We see him get arrested that night. So how did he get to the hospital? Good morning. I don't know. Maybe it'll come together. I didn't see everything. I mean, it was hours long. I worked today. So, here we go. Oh, so I left this part in. This is, so yesterday, the judge is like, okay, he said he was hungry or whatever. Okay, let's take a break. And they took a break. This is them during the break. This is her and him during the break. There's no sound. There's no guards. There's the prosecutor. That's the court reporter, I think, or clerk. They just left together. Now, if you notice, she is sitting still again behind the prosecutor right now.
Good morning. Ready to proceed?
Good morning. If you could state your name, please spell your first and last name for the court reporter.
Officer Peter Bronner.
And can you spell that last name for the court reporter?
BRLNNER.
And how are you employed, Officer Bronner?
I work for the City of Blue Ash Police Department.
And what training and experience do you have that qualifies you to be a law enforcement officer in the state of Ohio?
I attended Opata Academy at the Ohio State Highway Patrol Academy,
When did you do the Opata Academy?
2020.
And you did Ohio State Academy separately?
It was the Highway Patrol Academy.
Oh,
They
sorry.
do both troopers and basic police academy.
Okay. And were you previously involved with the Highway Patrol? Or?
No.
Okay. And, sorry, what year did you complete that?
2020.
And have you been working as a law enforcement officer since that time?
That's correct.
And I know you said you were with the City of Blue Ash now. Is that the only agency you've worked for?
It is.
And your training, did that include training on investigating domestic violence offenses?
It did.
Officer Bronner, were you on duty in the early morning hours of August the 26th of 2023, about 12:30 a.m.?
I was.
And were you, do you have I'm not really familiar with Blue Ash or that area. Do you have separate duty assignments or areas of the city that you patrol, or how does that work?
We have 3 separate beats.
Okay. And were you assigned a specific one that night?
That would be the beat 3 section
Micah would have just made 3 jokes right there.
where the Birch Hill Suites is located, up off Cornell.
And were you in uniform that night?
I was.
And were you operating a marked patrol vehicle?
Was.
I think we said, I think it was 12:26 a.m., you were one of the officers that was dispatched to 4650 Cornell Road in the city of Blue Ash.
That's correct.
And I think you said that's Birch Hill Suites.
It is.
Can you describe for the judge what is Birch Hill Suites?
Birch Hill Suites is a extended stay hotel.
And what did you do when you first arrived? First of all, what information did you have at the time you were dispatched to Birch Hill?
We were dispatched for a physical domestic.
And did you have information at that time about suspect information?
I do not recall the specifics.
Okay. Well, tell the court, what did you do when you first arrived at Birch Hill?
When I first arrived, I located a male and a female in the parking lot. I went and spoke with the male half,
Okay. And who was that person?
Mr. Back, who's currently blocked behind you, the gentleman.
The gray shirt and checks on here at the defense
sir.
counsel table? And so you said when you first arrived on scene, they were both there together?
I recall them both being in the lot in the general vicinity.
Okay. And and who was the other than Mr. Back, who was the other party that was there?
Miss Clinker that's seated.
You're
Yeah,
indicating she's
the
seated
alley.
here in the courtroom with us? And what did you do when you first got there? You saw the two of them in the parking lot. What did you do?
I went and spoke with Mr. Back, asked him about what had occurred tonight. Other officers were with Miss Clinker. I think there were 4 of us on scene. So 2 of us were speaking with Mr. Back and 2 of us were speaking with Miss Clinker.
Okay. When you first approached them, did you have an opportunity to see Miss Clinker before they were separated?
I don't believe so.
Okay. You didn't see any evidence of injury or anything like that to her on your first arrival?
On first arrival, I don't recall seeing that.
Okay. So you were one of the officers who first went to go speak to Mr. Back.
That's correct.
And what was, in your time as a law enforcement officer, are you familiar with the indications of intoxication?
They're
and
starting to
alcohol
wake
use?
up, guys.
I am.
Here they
When
come.
you interacted with contacted Mr. Back, did he appear to be under the influence of alcohol or intoxicated?
I believe he was intoxicated.
And did he give a statement to you, or did you inquire of him of what happened and why you guys were there?
I asked him that.
Okay, and did he give you a statement at that time?
He began playing a video on his phone where she alleged that he hit him, and he's like, clearly I didn't hit you. I brought forth that obviously you could have started that video at any given point prior to or after
Bob Orange-Spieler.
a alleged incident.
Okay. And did he make any statement at that time about how she would have been injured? Or if,
He said something about bleeding from a pimple.
okay. And after you got sort of an initial statement from him, did you go and have contact with Ms. Clinker?
I did.
And about how far apart were they separated?
Maybe 30 yards.
Okay. Within distance that they were still yelling at each other or making statements to each other?
I don't believe they were.
Okay.
I can't recall
And
specifically.
so tell us, what did you observe
They
of Ms.
were.
Clinker when you went over to speak with her?
When I went over to speak with her, she was holding a bloody washcloth, had quite a significant amount of blood for it to be anything related to a pimple.
We're going to see the body cam. So we are going to see the blood on the towel that she has. So just so you know, we're going to see blood today.
She also had dried blood around her nostrils.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 10. It was previously identified by Ms. Klinker. If you could just take a look at that. This is a still image from, I believe it's actually Officer Asbury's body camera, but looking at that, does that image, does it fairly depict what you observed of her condition and that bloody rag?
That was from a pimple.
So when you contacted her from what you observed of her injury, did you have an opportunity to observe her demeanor?
She was visibly quite upset. Her face was red, as you can see in the picture there.
And did you have an opportunity to assess whether or not she had been using alcohol or was intoxicated?
I did not pick up any indication that she was impaired.
And did Ms. Klinker make any statements to you about why she had called the police?
She did.
And what was that?
To the best of my recollection, she stated that he hit her in the face and that I believe she said alcohol is usually the issue there.
Did she request any medical attention at the time?
I believe she refused medical attention.
And did you inquire sort of about the relationship between the two of them?
I did.
And what did she tell you about the relationship, what their relationship was?
They were like a live-in boyfriend-girlfriend situation at the time.
And did she give you any information about any other prior instances of abuse?
I don't recall specifically.
Was there information at that time that he had been charged in Warren County with another case?
We did discover that, I believe.
Did she tell that to you or to other officers in your area?
Again, I can't recall specifically.
Okay.
It may have been mentioned to another officer.
I can recall it for you guys. It was strangulation. Yep. Hi, Mary.
Now, after you had separated the parties, was a decision made to arrest Mr. Back?
It was.
And you placed him under arrest
Correct.
and placed him in your patrol cruiser, is that right?
That's correct.
And after, did you continue your investigation after he was arrested and put in, did you continue to gather statements?
We did.
And after that, first of all, other than law enforcement and medical, any other services that you requested to come to the area because it was a domestic violence?
At the city of Blue Ash, we request the DVERT team deferred.
Okay. And what is
It's,
that?
It's an advocate group that provides services to victims of domestic violence.
And so did members of the divert team, did they come out
That's
to
the
scene?
mattress.
And they came out to meet with Ms. Klinker?
They did.
Now, did you get a written statement
If your mattress looks like an Etch-a-Sketch, you got problems.
from Ms. Klinker about the nature of the assault that happened?
I did.
I'm going to show you what Ms. Klinker previously identified as State's Exhibit number 11, but I just want you to take a look at that. Is that the written statement that she provided to you that night?
It is.
And that's actually an affidavit, right? It was notarized,
That's correct.
a sworn statement from her.
Mhm.
And why does Blue Ash, why do they pursue doing sworn affidavits? Why do you do it that way?
We always do for court purposes.
You use that in making a charging decision, right?
Correct.
And you use that as evidence when you make the charge, you file that affidavit with it as evidence of the charge.
Obviously, we weren't present at the time of the incident, so this is our sworn statement as to what occurred at the time of the incident.
And so her sworn statement on that time is that he suddenly snapped and punched me in the face and I immediately started bleeding. He tried to blame it on a pimple. Is that consistent with what she told you?
It is.
And what he told you, right?
Well, the pimple portion, yes.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He told, correct, thank you for that. He did not state that he had struck her, right?
Correct.
Did he deny that any physical altercation occurred? Did he have some other explanation? What did he say?
If I recall correctly, he said she just made it up.
Okay. That she had just picked this pimple and then blamed it on him as a punch.
Correct.
And in addition to the affidavit, do you also provide Ms. Clinker with her victim's rights information?
I believe we did, yes.
And, I mean, have you had an opportunity to review your report? It looks like it's included within that.
I can't remember exactly.
That's all right. Would it help you
I
to
did
recall if I
review
gave you a
it,
copy of your
but-
report to review?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And just take a few minutes to look over that.
I don't know if we're going to be able to read the writing because I saw it while I was editing, but they're going to show the police report.
And so, did you provide her with that, those victims' rights information?
I did.
And
A
did
copy
she-
of it here.
Did she indicate that she wanted to exercise those rights?
It does, here she requested to exercise all those rights.
So, when provided with information, victims' rights request form, she wanted to be notified of his release. She wanted to be notified of all the public proceedings in the case.
Correct.
She wanted to be present at all the public proceedings in the case,
That's correct.
right? She wanted to confer with the prosecutor about the case. And she included all of her information there, and she signed this, right?
Correct.
Was Mr. Back in her presence when she signed that affidavit and signed that waiver form?
No, he would have been in the back of my patrol car. She would have been back up in her hotel room.
Now, Officer Bronner, does Blue Ash Police Department, do they provide officers with body-worn audio-video recording devices?
They did.
And were you wearing one on that early morning hours when you interacted with Ms. Clinker and Mr. Back?
I was.
And I'm show you this as State's Exhibit number 9. Have you had an opportunity to review your body camera for that evening?
I did.
And does this recording, does it accurately record your interactions with Mr. Back and with Ms. Clinker already?
It does.
Your Honor, at this time, offer to play State's Exhibit 9. The entirety of the video is about an hour and a half, so I'm just going to focus sort of on the initial contact with the two parties and then contact with Ms. Clinker in terms of the signing of the affidavit and the victim's rights.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm going to start the video at 3:46 when he arrives at Birch Hill Suites.
Repeating Sammy 904 9284. 32.
I remember that, CJ. Now that you said it, I remember.
Try this.
Okay, now you guys are watching a video of someone watching a video. Ah ha ha ha.
1639.
I think they're both right here in the parking lot.
Yes, it did.
Ma'am,
What is this?
ma'am, please
In your nose.
go over by my car.
There's nothing wrong with this. I got a fucking ankle monitor on. I did nothing.
You got an ID on you?
I got an ankle monitor because
So what's going on?
literally fucking nothing. Same chick. All of this. Did nothing. Snack is fucking sick.
Were you arguing or anything?
She arguing with her fucking self, breaking her nose, and starts bleeding and fucking yelling at me.
Okay.
And, like I recorded the whole goddamn thing.
She was arguing with herself. Then she starts bleeding. And she blames it on him. How rude. He was just trying to live his life. With his ankle monitor on him for strangulation.
Okay. 33800 TD.
Just started screaming at me. It's all going on.
93 double.
Robert Queen 551108. You got a video of that? Does it have sound?
Never fucking happened.
What he just played for the officer, in case you didn't hear it, is her screaming, "You punched me in the effing face."
I'm starting.
Stop it! I know what you're doing! And I'm gonna incriminate you if you do it again and then you're gonna punch me again.
Comes back to Benjamin back now, white 927.
I'm not incriminating you.
Status is suspended.
That was after she said you hit her though. Just being fair.
I'm bigger concerned every one of you dudes. If I fucking hit her, she'd fucking be unconscious. Like, give me a fucking break.
No way, shape, or form.
Can I see your hands?
I literally did that.
Never fucking happened, man. Never fucking happened. I'm tired of this shit.
Hang out with Officer Owens here.
Hi, 65 going. I got it.
We've been together since COVID. She got in a lot of trouble and we lost her apartment.
You guys have kids?
Not
Married? Did you say you were married? Yeah.
supposed to be. He tried to say that he was working, but I know it's because he was going to get in trouble because he, like, if he... I just felt like...
Maybe the nurses can explain this when they come in. You see her face. Now, clearly when she goes to the hospital, just a little bit later, her whole eye is... I blurred it out, but her whole eye is puffy and red. Bright red, like a big black and blue mark right here. But right now, it's not. And she has three broken. It's broken here. It's broken here. And it's broken here. Her skull is broken right now, where she's touching her face and everything. Oh, but why? I mean, I get. Does it take that much time to start to puff up? We need the nurses in to explain why it's not red right now. I don't know.
I knew that if I made a phone call, he was going to go to jail. But he cannot do that.
No, absolutely not. That's not the case.
And that's why he got into this big trouble in the first time.
Sounds like it. When was this, like, how long ago this just happened? You guys been drinking and, like, tempers flare up?
Yeah, we were having, well, he started a new job and he didn't go, and I knew he was drunk.
Yeah.
And I was working all day, and then we were hanging out.
You've been drinking all day?
Actually, he's in position.
Where did he hit you? She got blood up in the nose, but it's not tipping your head back so I can see it.
Dripping like in my throat and stuff.
Where did he hit you? In the face. She just said it.
Yeah. And he's trying to say that I made it all up. He said that immediately and tried to record his recording of what I made up, which is not true.
You have your ID on you?
Inside.
You know your social?
215. What's going to happen? I'm just so upset about this. I did not know.
You said 215?
Sorry. 17.
What's your phone number real quick?
5.
Beth out real quick and give them Barb. Check if I got it. Yeah.
You're right. I think it was like the next day that it was. So I think when I first went in, both hands, it was both hands. They weren't that bad. I think it was like the next day when I was putting those blue things with the metal on my fingers. I think that's when it was really worse.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest. Okay?
Or Jasmine.
Interlace your finger. There you go.
In her word, when I have the video,
Hang tight.
you got it.
Here, I'll use mine since I'm second.
After you hit her, Micah, when does it start swelling?
You got it, Jay.
Dang.
Picking her nose, it starts bleeding.
Release your arms. We're putting 2 on you for comfort.
You gotta be kidding me. I have
Hang tight, hang tight.
3391 financially shooting to female weight 626
to do this shit again, dude.
Copy.
Hang tight. I'm trying to move
I
up.
think my mom doesn't want to talk to me.
Mark this one so it doesn't stab you in the back.
Yeah, we'll get it for that.
Which van?
Let's go take a seat. You don't have anything else on you that's going to hurt me, poke me, stick me, anything like that? Nothing illegal?
You do, goddamn.
Very good. Spread your legs for me. What's in your pockets? Spread your legs for me. More than that. There we go.
$10.
Well, I got a job to do, okay? Yeah, that's Yep, it's unlocked. Right here.
Why is every... Dude, I have the fucking evidence in my goddamn phone.
Let's see.
There's the complete opposite of all of this in my fucking phone. Like, can we get... Will you please just...
That's what I'm wondering, Debbie. That would make perfect sense. Because right now, okay, they said that she refused medical treatment. If you look at her right now, there's no swelling. It's not black and blue. And he is at the hospital with her when she goes to the hospital. And we are clearly watching him get put into a police car right now. Fozzie, my new laser pointer, yeah, it has a flashlight on it that's really good. You would need it.
Fucking looking. I was trying to... So why am I going to jail?
She alleges that you hit her.
I let you hit me! I showed you the fucking evidence!
Hey, looks like he's awaiting sentencing out of, for this, out of Warren County.
What's that?
He's awaiting sentencing for this. I don't think so.
It got dropped because I wanted it to be dropped.
Is it for a DV?
Yeah, but when you said he took a plea for a vessel, right?
He was charged for felony,
It was in fact not dropped just because she wanted it dropped.
and he pled to DV and violating a PTO. And they let him.
I guess we need a BCI.
What?
So he strangled her and he violated a PTO, which means he already had a PTO out when he strangled her the last time. So this is at least the third time minimum.
33800. Will you run BCI on the male subject?
For that.
Hey, from.
Okay, 32, did you say he had one out of Warren County?
I think I have one.
You're right, Bobby. You're right. We're so mean to men here. It's not their fault.
Yeah, I believe he was saying that there should be a DV out of Warren County recently.
What the fuck?
Oh, there was a time none of us had one now.
Is there anything else you want played for this section?
No.
Your Honor, at this point, I'll fast forward to 47 minutes when Officer Brano recontacts Clinker.
I really hope that they're standing right in front of the running engine when he recontacts her. This is where they live now, in the hotel room.
I'm just going to pause it. Officer Bronner, there's some people in this room. It looks like at least one of them is one of your colleagues from Blue Ash. But these other women that are present, who are those people?
Those would have been the Divert.
Okay, those are the advocates from Divert.
Yeah.
Hello.
Fill out the safety questionnaire, and that's it.
Okay.
And they'll be ready to go.
All right. Owens is down there hanging out with him.
Okay. Is he an alcoholic or does he hanging out with him?
Just notarized.
Is he being assholed on there or is he being good?
He's being just mouthy.
Okay. Is he an alcoholic or does he abuse drugs?
He's been clean from drugs for a long time, and he's not allowed to smoke marijuana, which he has a medical card for.
Hotel room.
Okay.
And he's been looking for a job. He tested positive 4 times in the last 2 weeks. But yes, he's an
Okay. Does he, so this one you kind of said yes to already, that he's kind of bipolar, but...
I think he is, and he's never been...
Sure, of course, I know that. Does he display mental problems or take psychiatric medications? Or have a history of mental health problems? That you know.
I think that, my case with him, like, obviously, I loved him. I wouldn't have I think that maybe he could get more attention.
Okay. Do you think that he has mental problems? Whether they're diagnosed or not. This is just your opinion.
The fact that he can go up and down so fast, yeah.
Does he sometimes have unrealistic fears and beliefs and or seem paranoid or depressed?
Well, the fact that he got diagnosed with these brain lesions before he got in trouble with Warren County, he just all of a sudden started making that his excuse for everything. And like I've already stated, this is really destroying me right now. I don't want to. I hate seeing all of this. But I know because like the fact that he would even say that the back of my face was bleeding over a pimple. Like he will say anything for anything. Like that's bullshit.
When was his charge in Warren County?
He was arrested May 21st.
Okay. Was that at a residence or a public place?
Our residence. And we were supposed to move into a new apartment the next day, and we lost both residences because the cops went there and told them that he was charged for a felony, and they wouldn't let us go forward with the lease, which left us all homeless, and that's why we're here.
The cops drove the whole way to that apartment complex and told them that this guy, out of everybody in that city, was charged with a felony?
Which has caused a lot of problems.
I can't imagine that's easy. Have you ever threatened to leave him or initiated steps to leave him?
No, but if we ever have a bad argument, that it's just, I know it sounds screwed up to people, but and you say it's not love or whatever, but we feel so connected to each other that like, I know that whenever he says stupid shit, he doesn't mean it, and then there it goes away. But, you know, when you punch someone in the face and make them bleed, that's a different story.
Absolutely. Is he obsessive or jealous or controlling towards you? Okay. Is he known to fight or engage in aggressive disputes with neighbors, friends, strangers, police?
You guys are a lot more intrusive than Warren County. Is this normal?
This is normal for every. This is Amy's law, and this is a state law. So.
I'm not meaning that in a
No.
way.
What I'm saying is that Warren County, if you're a victim of domestic violence, they should have asked you this exact same questionnaire. They should have. It's Amy's law.
Yeah, I've heard about these.
Okay, that's what this is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sound.
No, you're fine. So do you?
I'm just like very overwhelmed.
So is he known to fight or engage in violent behavior? That you know of? Like with strangers, cops, something like that?
I think that sometimes he tries to avoid it, but I think that yeah.
And then I know you mentioned this earlier that you recently became unemployed or encountered other major life stressors like lost a job,
Yeah, when he
financial
got
problems.
in trouble, he lost a really good job, and it put us in a really bad situation. And, you know, COVID with our finances has never been an easy thing.
Sure.
Always problems fight about stuff like that.
Right.
But him losing the job and then being locked in jail, and then when he got out, he was like, I feel demasculated because I can't provide. And then he was always yelling at me to go do everything. And then he decided not to go to work tonight. And I wasn't mad at him because I knew that the other job was a better option. I told him, I'm not mad at you. It's fine.
Right.
And then I think his feelings just kind of got out of control, which is what exactly happened when he got in trouble.
All right, so I'm going to try and get through. I've got a few more questions I need to ask you. Just if these happened recently or in the past, okay? Or not at all. Has he ever threatened to kill himself?
No.
Okay. Strangled or choked you. You said he got charged with strangulation.
Yeah, but I know the laws on that are all.
But from your point of view, has he ever strangled or choked you?
He put his hands around my throat,
That is.
and that's why he was charged for it. And
Has he ever sexually assaulted you against your will? Okay. Has he ever abused a family pet?
he loves dogs. I don't think he would.
Okay. Has he threatened to harm or take children?
He loves kids too.
Okay. Has he threatened to kill you?
When he got in trouble in Warren County, again, I don't believe his words, but he was talking shit.
Well,
And he said, after he slapped me, and did that, he said, next time I'll kill you.
okay.
And they already know that.
Has he ever broken any of your bones? Restrained you in
I've
any
never
way?
had a broken bone.
Okay. Has he ever abused you while you were pregnant?
We don't have kids together.
All right. Has he ever tried to force entry to get into you? Like if you're like locked out of here, he tried to force his way in at your work or here? Okay. And has he ever threatened or harmed a previous partner that you know of?
No. My ex and him don't like each other, but it's just normal stuff.
Okay.
Oh, she going to jail?
Do you think that he'd seriously harm you?
I really have never believed that he would, but that scared me.
Do you believe that he will now?
Well, he told me when he figured out this job stuff tonight that he felt happy and that he was feeling like things were going to get fixed and everything. So I don't know how this resulted in this.
Okay. Do you believe that you're safe to stay here in this hotel? While
He's not coming back here.
No, he's not enough for a while, but otherwise, now do you feel
In the United States, it's a felony to remove the tags from a mattress or pillows.
safe to stay here?
I'm scared now because now I don't really know. Like, I told him I could only support us for so long and that he needs to get started with his job, which was supposed to be happening. But I don't know what's gonna happen. He literally, when he got arrested on May 21st, he literally told them nothing happened. Same shit that he said there. So he was still mouthing off. Like, what is he yelling
You want her to just fill out that top section?
You can. It'll be easier.
Can you tell me what he's yelling about? I know he's yelling.
I need her to sign this. If you could, write your name here and sign below it.
Can you tell me what's he yelling about?
He was just yelling about a bunch of stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Did you even listen to specifics or what? Or he's just mad?
He's just alleging that nothing occurred.
So when it's obvious that I was bleeding out of my head?
He says that's nothing. That's what he's saying.
Alright, Ashley, if you don't mind just going.
All right, wait. One more thing. Okay. She doesn't appear intoxicated to me right now. She might be, but she doesn't appear intoxicated. At the hospital, she is clearly intoxicated. So she couldn't have went to the hospital tonight. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I bet she starts drinking right now and goes to the hospital in the morning.
Sign this for me. This was the victim's your right sheet that when I asked you if you wanted to be notified about everything. Mm-hmm. Okay? So you would just sign there for me. I'll say mistake because I saw like representative.
Mm-hmm. I know, I guess.
What was that?
My deepest wish for tonight is that he understands that I don't want any of this at all, but he should have never done that.
One last thing I need from you. This is your affidavit here. You swear that's the whole...
I already did. I'll
We talked about it a
I'll
lot
sign it. I'll
before
sign
I
it.
even wrote that.
Yeah, stamp right here.
Yeah, I'll sign it.
Because I didn't even want to write it.
Alright. The bird, social workers are here, and then now I'm here for a while. They're going to talk to you about what they need to talk to you about, okay? Alright? So I'm going to wait outside. I'm going to wait outside and give them reason privacy. Because they may go into more depth than I did.
Hater. Haters be hating.
From your standpoint, from your department, can you tell me what's the charge?
Domestic violence and assault.
I'm stopping the video at 59:09. Officer Bronner, did you end up charging Mr. Back for assaulting Ms. Klinker
I always forget we're in a courtroom when we're watching this body cams.
for the events that happened that evening?
I did.
And did you attend a grand jury in Hamilton County relative to this charge?
I did.
And was Ms. Klinker there also?
Initially, she was not there. We actually had an officer go pick her up and bring her to grand jury.
Officers from Blue Ash transported her down to the grand jury. Were you present to witness her behavior at the grand jury?
I was.
And how would you characterize her behavior at the grand jury?
She did not want to cooperate with the prosecution.
And ultimately, she refused to testify.
That's correct.
And that case was dismissed, right?
It was.
Bill snorts
Those
when
are
he
all the questions
laughs.
that I have for you, Officer Bronner. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. View. Cross-exam.
We have nothing further for this witness.
Okay, thank you very much for coming in.
Your Honor, those are all of the state's witnesses. The state would rest. We can discuss exhibits. I know I put a number of exhibits that were related to the charges he pled to, so I think we'll get together with defense counsel and just go over those. And then I don't know if you want to break and come back after lunch for a defense case or what you want to do.
What I'd like to do is to go a little longer because when I break, we're not going to be able to start back until 2:45.
Okay. If it's okay with the court, then in terms of the state's exhibits, I'll just offer those pending our review of those, and that way we can just go ahead and proceed.
Okay, thank you. Is that okay with you, Mr. Gibb?
Could you clarify, Your Honor?
He wants to give you an opportunity to review the exhibits he's
yes,
offering.
I meant as far as schedule. I thought you were saying.
Well, what I thought we would do is go ahead with your witness and get as much of that done as we can, and then break, come back at 2:45, address the admission of exhibits then if there are objections. Otherwise, they'll just be admitted, and we'll proceed after that.
Could we have a brief recess, or what time were you wanting to stop?
Probably 20, go for 20 minutes is what I was thinking.
Okay.
I mean, I would expect my cross-examination of Mr. Back alone would take longer than that.
I don't
I mean, if
remember
you were planning
that.
to
I
stop at
watched.
12:20, I'm sure my cross-examination of him would be less longer than 20
I don't
minutes.
remember that.
You
I don't
wanna try to
remember a
get through
speech.
direct as much as we can and then come back.
That's what I was thinking.
And the only reason I ask is my client informs me he got off work at 7 this morning and hasn't eaten since.
Oh, hell no.
4:30, so it's just feeling a little fatigued, but we're certainly at the court's discretion happy to move forward.
Well, we'll break for lunch here shortly. I just want to maximize the minutes that we have until noon or 10 after.
Guys would like to call Mr. Benjamin back.
We need to decide. Listen, yeah, right here. You check it. Right here.
I'm stealing content from this link right here because I don't remember a speech. Oh, I remember the speech now. I get it. I get it. I remember. Okay, this is the speech, guys. He's talking about mattresses. Oops, I'm covering him. Shit. Oh, he's gone. I just failed. That was just a whole failure of a failure. Listen, I do it every day, twice a day, on Tuesdays.
Mr. Back's aware of any documents he takes up there, state's entitled to review. Regardless, any notes that he takes up to the stand are entitled to review.
Mr. Gibbs, are you more comfortable just starting starting your examination at 2:45?
That would be our preference, but we're certainly happy to defer to
Well,
whatever.
maybe you can get just some of the introductory evidence in, and then we'll break at noon.
All right.
It's just a few minutes after.
Here we go, folks. Here we go. Now we're about to find out the truth.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in today's case to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. See, this is your microphone here, so when you come up here, please water. This is the pointer if you should need it, and just hit that red dot, okay?
Morning, Mr. Back. Ken, give me a little bit of your background, how you came to know Miss Clinker.
Go ahead and state your name, please, first.
Benjamin back. We met in 2000, probably the end of 2017, early 2018. We both served at Bravo, and it was probably at the beginning of 2018. I'd been there 2 years prior, then left for a little while to work for my brother, then came back. I'd been there for about a year, and then she started working there as a part-time job. And I guess we actually had met before that because she used to always bring her daughter in for lunch in the mid-afternoons on Tuesdays, because I would be the only person working throughout the afternoon from like 2 to 5, be the only server. So she'd bring in, so I was slow obviously if I'm the only one there. So I was able to talk and get to know her quite a bit. And then she started working there because she worked at the salon right behind us. And we worked together all the way up until COVID happened. And she lost her hairstylist job and the Bravo
This is her boyfriend. He's taken, Bill. You can't have him.
job, both for a short period of time. I lost the Bravo job and the Courtyard Marriott job that I had. So we were dependent upon the stimulus and stuff for quite a while. I did a lot of construction odd jobs so that we'd have make sure we had all the bills paid. Then when COVID happened, we started dating. They announced it, second week of March or something like that in 2020. Our first date was like a week after Valentine's Day. And then, so we were barely dating. And then when COVID happened, didn't want to be driving back and forth to her place with the curfew and all that. So started staying the night quite a bit. Kind of had to do it slowly because her daughter was 10 at the time, or 9 at the time. And so she'd never seen her and her ex-husband got divorced when the daughter was very young, around 1. So she'd never seen her mom really date because she totally committed herself to being a good mother.
I'm sorry, I'm going to check. I feel like we're just having a narrative answer here. Just defense counsel going to question the witness.
I'll give him leeway. I think he's just trying to give some introduction to their relationship. Go ahead.
So I started saying of her some, and then it just
Not relevant.
It just kind of slowly, all of a sudden, I was there every night. And then so we'd probably only been dating about 2 months. It was probably mid-April when we started living together of 2020. And we lived together there in Sterling Lakes for 4 years, I guess. Yeah. And we lived there, and we were about to upgrade to a bigger place. That way I could bring some more of my stuff, because a lot of my stuff is in my parents' basement still. But we tried to upgrade so I could get all the stuff out of my parents' house. So we're about to move in.
You mentioned Bravo. Were you both working as servers?
Yeah, we were both servers. So,
is that the Bravo and Mason?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And that was the first you guys met?
Yeah. Well, met when she was a customer, but then, just casually.
Terry, hi Terry.
But we worked together for a couple of years before we started dating. So we felt like we knew each other pretty well. So I didn't think it was that weird that we jumped into a heavier relationship as fast as we did.
And besides Bravo, then I understand you mentioned that you lost that with COVID-19.
Yeah, I decided not to go back because they had sold. So I didn't like the way that the company was going. So I started doing other jobs, construction, things like that.
And where are you currently employed?
I work for Kraft Heinz now. It was August of 21 is when I got the job at Kraft Heinz. And then I used to work first shift as a machine operator. And then I was there for just under 2 years.
So he doesn't punch anybody.
And then under one of the situations that we've spoken about, I ended up losing that job because obviously I couldn't go for a couple of months, so I got fired I got terminated for attendance. So I had to wait a year to be able to go back. So waited about a year and 3 months and went back, and they hired me back. And then within a month and a half, I got a promotion to be at line tech. So I have a pretty good job. Like right now I have to work third shift. That's like I've been up all night. So that's kind of rough, but.
And that's your current full-time employment?
Yeah, I work anywhere from 40 to 60 hours, typically in the 50 something right now, because third shift, I don't
been
get
bad.
as many hours. On first shift, I get 60 hours every week. But working third shift, I'm like mid-50s. So I make enough money now with the raise that I got that she doesn't really have to work, and she really doesn't want to. And with her thumb, that was an accident. She fell down, missed the chair, and broke her thumb. So she hasn't been able to work as a hairstylist. She tried to go back a couple times, but
Wait,
it was painful for her.
What did he just say on the stand? She tried to sit down, and she broke her thumb, and now she can't work anymore because it's too painful.
So she hasn't worked in quite a while. She really hasn't had a job in about a year for the most part, other than a couple of weeks here and there. So she likes to take care of me and a daughter, so as long as I can afford that, I like that too.
So what's your educational background or qualifications for your job then?
I went to Little Miami High School, graduated with honors, graduated with a 4.62 GPA on a 4.0 scale because of all my weighted classes.
I bet she sat on the mattress chair.
So I got into Ohio State. So I wanted to go there, so I was away from my parents a little bit, but not far enough away that I couldn't go home. So I went to Ohio State, graduated from there. Took me about 4.5 years. I never took summer classes. And I had to work the whole time, so I didn't take a huge work, like full-time student, but never exceeding a lot of hours. So graduated from there in 2004. Then got married right after that to my son's wife. We were married for about 4 years, and then we kind of just drifted apart. So we ended up getting a divorce. And I was single for, about close to 10, I guess 8 years, something like that. And then I finally started dating, but I didn't really have more than one date with anybody until I met Ashley.
And what's the current status of your relationship with
We're
Ashley?
married, yeah.
And when did that happen?
November 7th.
Of this last year?
Yeah. It was supposed to happen in June before what put me on probation. It was supposed to happen like the next month. So obviously we weren't able to do that because I was in jail. So we just didn't really have time. Or when you make an appointment, we got married here at the courthouse. You make an appointment, it's like 3 months out. So it just, the timing of everything took us a while to get it done. But I've always felt since the moment we started dating that I'm going to grow old with her.
So would it be accurate to say that you've been in a continuous relationship with Ashley since about 2020?
Yeah, absolutely.
And were you guys ever separated for any period?
No.
Okay. And we've heard testimony throughout these proceedings mentioning your living arrangements historically. Is it true that you were living in a hotel for a period of time?
Yeah, a few months. And we kept trying to find a place that would be within the budget of trying to get out of debt. And so it was difficult to do. I mean, we could have easily found a place that was $1,600 or $1,800 a Mason because I am willing to pay the Mason price for our daughter to go to school there. But we wanted to be able to start paying off some of our debt because we have quite a bit of it. And so we got this little 1-bedroom, which meant we had to sacrifice full-time custody of our daughter and have a shared parenting thing with her ex-husband. So we lose some time with her that way because she's at it for 13 years. She had her all by herself. Like her ex-husband only saw her daughter 2 nights a week for dinner. Every once in a while, sleep over on Friday. And I love her daughter. Like, my son lives up in Spencerville, which is a little town outside of Lima, so I don't get to see him all that much.
And how old is your son and daughter?
My son's 17, she's 14. So, and I've spent so much time with Haley, that's her daughter. I've spent so much time with her that I would honestly say I'm probably closer with her daughter than I am my son. I consider her my daughter.
So I'm going to start asking you some questions, getting closer to the main incident event. Where were you living in July of 2024?
July 24, that would have been Stirring Lakes, right? I believe so, 2024. No, hold on.
And I believe earlier testimony from Ms. Klinker mentioned that you had a storage facility, is that correct?
July of 24. Oh, we're talking about this. I'm like, I'm trying to match the date, sorry. Yeah, we'd been living in hotels. We lived in a couple of different ones. We kept trying to find a nice one, which sometimes is difficult, for a decent price. So we bounced around a couple of different ones, and I wanted to gradually move our way right back up here. We wanted to move out of Warren County, but we gradually just worked our way right back up here. So then July would have been, so we're living in our apartment at that point. We moved into the apartment in March. So yeah, we were living in the apartment we have now. And I'm sorry, I'm brain dead. I really need some food.
Okay, we'll take a break.
Yeah.
We'll break and be back at 2:45.
2:45.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge.
This is them coming back from break. Yep. Yippers. They went and had a nice lunch together. They did. So, I'm guessing there's no contact order.
Thank you for the break, Judge.
So, you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor, we're prepared to go forward.
So, Mr. Beck, you provided kind of some background before the break, a little bit of information about how you and Ms. Kleiner met and what the current status of your relationship is and such. Let's move forward and get to the date of the incident, July 24th, 2024. Can you tell me what you were in the process of doing on that day?
We don't have a truck, and we had some furniture to move. Dresser, a big desk, a bed, a bunch of smaller things like just like totes of books, like kids' books and stuff like that. Some of her daughter's little knickknacks.
My other sister that I rarely ever talk about. She was in court one day for custody of her children, or I can't remember if it was, I think it was both children. She lost custody of both children. She lost custody of her one child first, and then she had another child, and then she lost custody of both children, and she had to do 3 things to get her children back. All right. So she's in court and she's on the stand, and they're questioning her. And the 3 things that she had to do was get a job, stop using drugs, and find a stable place to live. Those are the 3 things she had to do. So she's on the stand, and they start questioning her right before lunch. And then they break for lunch. Then they get back from lunch, and she gets back on the stand. And the prosecutor gets up and says, "So, what did you do over lunch?" And my sister was like, oh, I went to get some lunch. He goes, did you, refill any prescriptions while you were at lunch? And she says, nope, nope, I just went to lunch. Well, I don't know how he found out, but she called 5 different pharmacies while she was at lunch to get the same prescription refilled, which was clearly against all court orders. She did not have a place to live. She did not have a job. She was still abusing medication highly. So guess what happened to her children at the end of that court day? Yep, they went home right with her. Yep, the judge is like, okay, here you go. Here's your children back. Try harder.
And whatnot. And then like Christmas stuff was all packed up. So we have a SUV, a 4Runner, or RAV4, but it's obviously not big enough to put a big desk or a bed or anything in. So my brother borrowed my dad's pickup truck, and he got off work. He said he'd be at 6. It's a storage. So he met us there at 6, and he works a lot. He owns his own business. He works a lot of hours. So he wanted to be done as quick as possible. So we were rushing. So we got everything out of the storage. We got it all empty. Took us 2 trips, but we got it all in. And our apartment's really small. It's a 1-bedroom. It's about 900 square feet. So we got it all in. We already have too much stuff. That's why we still had some in the storage unit. So we had to just kind of cram everything in. So there was stuff all over the place. So my brother, it was like 8:30. Said he wanted to be done by 9. It was probably about 8:30 or so when he left.
In the morning?
And then we continued. We had everything in the house.
Mr. Back, in the morning, 8:30 or 9?
No, at night.
Oh, at night.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So he left, and then we still had some stuff in her car, which we literally just took her daughter's American Girl dolls and a couple other things out of the car finally. So they're just sitting in the living room at the moment. But so we were trying to cram everything in the best we could. Through a lot of ingenious organizing, I guess you could say. But everything was just kind of mashed in at first. And then so
Not mushed.
we have this
mashed.
It's our dining room table. It's one of those like rustic picnic table type
Your
ones.
Honor, again, I'm going to raise my previous objection. This is just narrative testimony. Defense counsel needs to ask questions to be responsive.
Overrule.
All right, so the table is where it still is now. But when we brought in her daughter's mattress, we got rid of the box spring because it was a little messed up. So we kept the
And it was dangerous.
And me and my brother had just carried it in and like leaned it up against that table. And it was barely up against the table. It was just like teetering on the edge. And it was like straight up and down. I didn't lean it. We were in a rush. He wanted to go. So we had it there.
What room was this in?
The living room, dining room, the same. It's small. So like the little hallway that is between the two is the same size as like, it's with the table there, like I barely fit through somewhat.
How many square feet is the apartment?
It's about 900.
Okay.
So, the bedroom's big. We have a whole bunch of stuff in the bedroom that's just like crammed in the corner. But up against the table, I put that mattress, and it was barely up against the table. It was, looking back, it was pretty dumb to put it there. But, so we're trying to move all the totes and stuff and get them out of the way. And she was working on something. So on the outside wall, there's a sliding glass door. Then the table and the mattress was leaning up against the end of the table, like in front of the sliding glass door. And she was in the living room part to the, if you're walking towards the bedroom, she's over to the right before the kitchen area. And she was bent over, like doing some stuff. She was in a tote, I believe, or I don't know. I can't remember what exactly she was doing at the moment. But I tried to walk by with one of the big totes, I mean, as far as my arms could reach. And I tried to walk by, and I couldn't quite fit, and then I turned. Once I got past her, I turned, and I hit the edge of the bed, and it wobbled, and I saw it, but I couldn't get the tote down fast enough to catch it, and then it was just hit her in the back, and she went face first into the totes.
Okay. I believe in earlier testimony, Ashley stated that she'd had alcohol that day.
Yeah.
Do you recall that?
I do. She'd had quite a bit. She probably had at least 3 bottles that entire day.
Of wine?
I'm sorry. Of
Bottles
wine,
of wine?
sorry. Yeah.
Would you happen to know about the alcohol percentage of that?
It's like 13 and a half, 14. She drinks Chardonnay. So when we were moving the stuff, it took us 2 trips. And me and my brother left the first time to bring the first load back, and she stayed at the storage unit. Well, when we're driving back to the storage unit, she's trying
Quit
to
your
walk
job.
back to the apartment, which the storage unit was in Landon on Montgomery Road, and our apartment's on Snyder and Mason. And she was like a quarter of the way already, and we're like, we pulled over and picked her up, obviously, like, what are you doing? She's like, I thought you guys left me. Like, no, we're still getting the stuff out. You were supposed to keep figuring out where we needed to put things. And so we picked her up and then went back to the storage unit and got the rest of the stuff at that point.
So going back to the incident that you just described, take yourself back in time to that moment. What happened? You see the mattress fall, you see it, you're unable to stop it based on your testimony. You see it make contact with Ashley, she goes into the tote. What happens then?
She just kind of laid there for a second. I was like, what's wrong? Are you okay? And then she started crying, and then she stood up. And it was already like, it didn't look anything like the picture at that point, obviously. But you could tell it was like real red and like starting to bruise. And then so I immediately went and, well, I told her to go sit on the couch. And I immediately went and got her an ice pack and a couple ibuprofen and gave her those. And then so she just laid on the couch and just with the ice pack on and drank a little more wine. And then she fell asleep. And then I fell asleep shortly thereafter. I was pretty exhausted. And then the next morning, woke up about 8 o'clock. And then around 10, she said, I want to go get some wine to get rid of this pain. So we went and we got 2 bottles of wine and came back.
Did you purchase some?
Yeah, from Palm Oil.
Okay.
So we got those, came back. She drank about 1 3/4 bottle, I would say, by eyeballing it. And then at that point, she was like, it still hurts. And I'd given her ibuprofen too, and she'd been icing it. And it started to look bad at that point. And then she talked to her mom, and her mom said, go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital. That was about, started drinking at 10. It was about 2 or so when she started saying it, when she talked to her mom. And then it was about 2:30, between 2:30 and 3 when she called the ambulance. The ambulance came and picked her up. And then they took her, and then I got a ride up there. And so
How did you get to the hospital?
I drove her car.
Do you consider not going?
Listen, I'm not saying he's lying, but it's kind of hard to believe that anything he says.
Going to the hospital?
No, not at all. But I didn't want to ride in the ambulance. She wanted me to ride in the ambulance. And how are we going to get home if I ride in the ambulance? So I just stayed, and then I went and I put the dog up and everything, and then got in the car.
Probably doesn't even have a dog.
Okay,
He lives
so
in a
Ashley
hotel.
Got picked up by the ambulance. You followed. Was it pretty shortly thereafter?
Yeah, I was right behind them. They were unloading her when I walked in to the emergency room. They were unloading her. And they took her into the back for a second, and then they brought her right out to the waiting room. She didn't see triage or anything for about an hour and a half. We sat in the waiting room until she finally went back to the triage.
And I'm going to get into the time at the hospital, but just before that, had you and Ashley been arguing that day?
No, not that day, no.
You hadn't, like, during the move or?
No, I mean, when you're moving, it's stressful. So you'd be like, no, don't put it there, you know, put it over there. I don't want it there, that kind of stuff. But no, we weren't arguing about anything.
Had you been drinking that day?
Me? No.
No alcohol?
Nope.
So from the hospital, if you can, please tell me from your perspective what your experience was. You going on from the point you said you got there, you're waiting for quite some time. Then what happens?
She went back, and I just I was still tired from the night before from moving everything. So I just kind of laid in one of the little two-seater couches things they have. I was kind of laid back in it and just waited. And then after a little while, I went up and asked the desk, like, what was going on, because usually you come right back out for triage. And they said she's still in there with them. I was like, all right, I went back and sat down. And then, I don't know exactly how long it was. I was probably out there for an hour or so before I went back. And then I went back straight to the room, sat down, started talking to her, asking her how she felt and everything. And she told me, you know, it's hurting. And then the nurse came in a couple minutes later and told her about what the CAT scan showed. So she got upset, obviously, and because the nurse didn't really explain what everything was, she just told her what it was. So she got really upset and like started crying, and like she got loud. She got verbally loud, like, I can't believe this is happening, you know, stuff like that. She's like, I'm gonna die. So then that nurse, the last one we talked to, she was the nurse that was there at the moment. And she thought that, and all I was doing, all I said to Ashley was, calm down, baby, it'll be okay, it ain't that bad. And I was holding her hand, and then that nurse hit the panic button, and then the UC cops showed up, pulled me out of the room. I spoke with them for a little while, and they said, okay, you can go back in. So I went back in, and I was just sitting there, and she had calmed down. And then they did the shift change at 7 p.m. The second nurse came in, and she came over, and she looked at what the CAT scan results were and stuff. And she said it wasn't nearly as bad as the first nurse had made it out to be. So
one quick question on this. I know earlier testimony from one of the nurses, forgive me on the name, but I recall the testimony involving when she first came in, you were present and had your head down.
Yeah, I was on my phone going through my email.
Okay, so you were on your phone doing email at that time?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So the UC police come, they leave. Now, my understanding, again, based on previous testimony, is that when the Mason police came, you weren't present.
No, I was. I didn't know about that.
Hi, Cara.
The left thing. I guess when the nurse called the police, that was right after I'd walked outside to smoke a cigarette. And then before the Mason police got there, I was already back in the room, sitting in a chair.
So you hadn't gotten in the car to go somewhere?
No, I never got
or
in the
left the premises?
No.
We're all scared of mattresses.
Did you have any direct interactions with any of the healthcare staff?
Did you punch anybody?
The only thing was we tried to close the door for privacy, and then the one lady, the last one we talked to, came over and opened the door back up. I was very confused by that. And then I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, I want to keep this door open. I'm like, okay. That was all. That was the only interaction I had, except for the nurses at the reception desk.
And when the police came, what interactions did you have with them?
I just went, really, for what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I have no idea what's going on here. And he was like, well, I'm going to detain you till we figure it out. He was like, turn around. So I got up and I turned around.
From your recollection of events about this incident, was it an accident?
It was absolutely an accident. If I could go back and not put the mattress where I put it, because it's my fault that the mattress was there the way it was. So If I would have thought about it better, then I wouldn't have put it there, and this never would have happened.
He is
But
guilt-ridden.
my brother wanted to get going, and I just wanted to get all this stuff in the house, and then we'll figure out where to put it later. So
Did
I
you
just
hit-
set it there, and
Did you hit the mattress intentionally?
no, the tote I was carrying was, I couldn't fit between her and the mattress. So instead of hitting her, I hit the mattress, and then the mattress fell on her.
Is there anything else you remember about that day or about the incident that you think is important for the court to hear?
He forgot to mention the pimple, guys.
Not really. I mean, I'm constantly concerned about her blood sugar. Like, I call her I work third shift, so she's sleeping at night, and I can monitor her blood sugar on my phone. So, like, if it gets low or too high, I call her and wake her up and have her drink orange juice or take insulin or whatever. I had to last night. It was down to 45 at one point, I think. I called her and she immediately drank either apple juice or orange juice. And then, like, if it doesn't go up in the next, 50, because it takes a minute, obviously. If it doesn't go up within 15 minutes, I call her back again to make sure she didn't fall back asleep, which happens sometimes. But I'm always super concerned about that.
Falling
because
back to sleep
she can behave
happens.
somewhat radically when it's
Sorry.
out of balance. If it goes over 200 or under 70, she gets a little out of whack. And because she's type 1 diabetic, it's not type 2. And she didn't become diabetic till she was 37. So it's very difficult on her. But when she got to the hospital, her blood sugar was only 56. And they didn't give her any orange juice. They didn't do anything to up it. So that was somewhat concerning to me.
And she, from your perspective, was still intoxicated when she got to the
Oh,
hospital?
yeah, she was drunk. There's no doubt about it. She did it on purpose to make the pain go away.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Dina, did you bring out the exhibits?
No.
I'm gonna need several of those. Thank you.
I was thinking that same thing because I didn't forget. He sounded completely harmless, like a good guy up there.
I'll grab one there. Sorry.
Keep up. Come on. Keep up, Bill. I'll break up back, guys. Behave.
Good afternoon, Mr. Back. Some questions for you. Just want to cover a couple of things. Okay. That Miss Clinker, you said she hasn't worked in about a year?
She's had a couple of different jobs for a few weeks at a time.
So no, she hasn't really worked.
Pretty much, no.
Thank you. And then you have a pretty well-paying job at Kraft Heinz, correct? I think we kind of talked about that a couple of times.
I enjoy my job too. It's hard to
And,
find.
but, so you pay the rent, right?
I pay everything.
You pay the utilities, right? Food,
Yep.
right? Phones,
Yep,
right? Everything. I think you said, right? You
Yep.
pay for everything.
I do.
And we've seen a couple of different, I know you've been present throughout the whole trial, right? You've seen all of the exhibits as we put them forward, right?
Yep.
And I think there was a statement that's been made a couple of different times. I think you made it a couple of times, and Ashley has said it a couple of times, that but for your job, she would be homeless. Is that right?
Yeah, it did actually make her homeless. When I went to jail and lost my job, she had to live in a hotel. She had to live in her ex-husband's house and hotels.
Now, in terms of recently, you two have been living together since August the 7th of 2024 when you got an OR bond on this case and the judge canceled the temporary protection order.
We've been living together since April of 2020.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, since this case started, originally when this case started, you got arrested at the hospital, right? And then you were in the jail, there was a preliminary hearing.
Yep.
And then we ultimately had a bond hearing
Yep.
and a temporary protection order here in front of this judge.
Lucky Terry.
So, but since that date, right, and that's before the indictment began, right?
Mhm.
Before the case went to grand jury.
Right.
You have been, the two of you have been living together continuously. And I just, something else that's sort of been brought up a couple of times in the statements that Ms. Klinker has said, both to medical staff and also in some of her written statements, and then also in the audio recordings of the various interviews, she has described you as having anger issues. Do you think that's accurate?
I wouldn't say I have an anger issue, but I get upset easily. I'm emotional.
Okay.
Like I cry a lot. You know what I mean? That's what it is.
Well, that's kind of different. Don't you think? I'm not trying to mince words with you, Mr. Back. That's kind of different, isn't it?
I said I'm emotional.
Yeah. I mean, having anger problems is not the same as being crying a lot.
Right, I didn't say I had an anger problem.
So you disagree with that statement that she has made to a couple of different people that you have anger issues.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Right.
Right? You think when Ashley Klinker said that, she was lying about you. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think she was trying to prove a point.
Now, she also has mentioned a couple of times to various people that she described you as bipolar.
I'm not. I have anxiety issues.
Wait for his, I don't think he finished
okay.
his question.
Sorry.
I mean, I think you did answer because, that's not true, is it?
No, I'm not bipolar.
Okay. You don't have a diagnosis for some sort of bipolar disorder.
Absolutely not.
You don't take psychiatric medication for bipolar disorder, do you?
No, I don't. I take buspirone for anxiety.
And I think that, you've listened to her statements over the last couple of days. In the context that Ashley has used that you have anger issues or that you get stressed or that you have bipolar, you agree with me, she's essentially offering those as justifications or reasons why you would lose your temper with her.
Yeah, like I said, just trying to prove a point. You cross-examined her, you understand she becomes a bit emotional.
All right. I want to go back through, because we kind of you talked with Mr. Gibbs about what happened in July of 24, but there's evidence of other incidents between the two of you, and I want to talk about those. So in June 17th of 2021, the Warren County Sheriff's deputies came to your house on Sterling Lakes Circle, right, apartment 103. That's right?
Yeah.
And they did that because Ashley told them that you had thrown her to the ground, right? Got abusive, throwing me down several times in the grass.
CJ talks to me a lot.
Is that right?
That is what she said, yes.
And does that happen? Did you throw her down?
No, I took her phone, she jumped on my back, and I jerked to get her off of me, and she fell on the ground.
So just so we're clear for your testimony, I think your testimony and your statement at that time was that she attacked you for no reason. Is that right?
Because she jumped on my back, yeah.
And so your testimony is her statement is not true. That did not happen.
And she did fall to the ground as I shook her off. So in a way, that's the same thing, but not exactly.
Well, it seems to me that what she's claiming is that you threw her to the ground more than once, not shook her off your back.
It's not true.
Okay.
I said that then too.
So that is not what happened, right? That's what your testimony is. That did not happen.
The same as it was when it happened.
And so, just so we're clear, you're not claiming that you accidentally injured her on that day, are you?
She didn't get injured.
Well, I mean, police officers took pictures of...
That's a shadow that's inside.
See where the skin is scraped right here at the wrist?
Okay, that makes sense now. This picture of her arm. Remember I said the police didn't notice any other marks on her body, and I said, well, they have pictures of her arm all bruised. So this was I didn't watch the whole thing when I was editing it. So this was a prior picture of her the last time, or one of the last times. Maybe it is a shadow. Maybe that's not a bruise. I know what that is.
I'm looking at State's Exhibit number 20, Mr. Back.
I don't think that's what that is.
And so if the officers testify that they saw an injury to her wrist and they took a picture of it, those officers were not telling the truth either?
They also said that there was red marks on her neck one time and there wasn't.
Well, let's only do one of the incidents at a time, Mr. Back. Okay? So if I understand correctly, you're saying Ms. Clinker lied about that incident and the police officers also lied about that incident.
I say it got blown out of proportion.
Objection, I'd say that's mischaracterizing what the witness said.
Well, he sort of gave his answer, so I'll rule the objection.
Thank you, Judge. All right. And then on May 11th of 2022, again, Warren County Sheriff's deputies came to your residence because, as Ms. Clinker said, that, one, you got upset because you accused her of talking with her ex-husband. Is that true?
I'm not totally sure on that one. Is that the one where we had a trial in Mason and the judge decided to set aside anything as long as
There's been so many, I can't remember.
did counseling?
Talking
I
about
can't
what she
remember.
said on that day, Mr. Bagg. So, would you like me to?
I don't remember if her ex-husband was involved in it at all.
Well, I mean, you were here in court when Ms. Clinker said that yes.
Yeah, I'm saying I don't remember if that happened that day. She talks to her ex-husband all the time. I don't remember.
But you did call her a lying, cheating whore, right?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, the deputy testified that she heard you say that, so that did happen, right? And that Ms. Clinker said that you put your hands around her throat and tried to choke her, said that next time you won't come out of it alive. So I'm going to take those in two parts. Did you put your hand around her throat?
Put my hand on her shoulder, right here. next to her collarbone and asked her to calm down.
And
Never
then,
touched her
so,
throat.
and then this statement then that next time you won't come out of it alive.
I don't remember saying that.
Okay, so again, Ms. Clinker, if she said that those things happened, are you saying that that's not?
Too late.
I mean, that's what I said when it happened, when it took place. That's what I told everybody.
I'm not sure I understand that answer.
It's what I told the police and the judge.
You told them what?
That didn't happen.
Okay.
All right, on May the 11th of 2023, again, sheriff's deputies came to your apartment, 103, at Sterling Lake Circle, and you were present in
Get a
court right when I
binder.
played the 911 call that Ms. Clinker made that day? Yesterday, I played it
I'm
yesterday.
trying to think of exactly what the words were in it. Yes.
Yes. And you're also on that. I mean, you can hear your voice in the background.
Oh, yeah, okay, I remember that.
Yeah. And she said that you put your hands around her neck and said that you were going to kill her. Is that true?
No,
You didn't, that didn't happen either?
that did not happen.
Okay. And she, again, referring to state 17, she said, right? Told me, he said it one more time, that he would kill me. He put his hands around my neck, strangling me, and said, if I said another word, he would kill me.
Nope,
That did not happen?
that did not happen.
And I think you referred to this earlier, though, that the deputies who saw her that day took pictures, said that they observed redness around her neck.
I don't see anything in that picture, and there wasn't anything. She's always red.
So again, were the
She's always red.
officers lying as well?
They're just taking her for whatever she's saying, I guess. I don't know. They have an agenda, I'm sure, but I don't know those people. I don't know what they're.
And you listened to the cruiser video that we played of when you were arrested on that, right? We played that yesterday,
Yeah.
today. And I think you did make the statement then, right, that you have never touched her,
Yep,
right?
yep,
Is that right?
yeah.
But you do agree with me, right, Mr. Back, that for that incident, that in fact, you pled guilty to domestic violence. You admitted in front of this court that you did assault her.
Sometimes you take a plea bargain to avoid the worst thing. I didn't want to be a felon. And I know you know that I said that because you listened to the calls on the home wife. And my story has never changed on any of this.
So is it your testimony then that when the judge asked you, he asked me to recite the facts of the case and you pled guilty that you misled this court?
I pled guilty to avoid a felony. Isn't that why you overcharge everybody?
Sir, I understand this is stressful for you, but just answer his questions. You don't need to be asking him questions.
Now, on that issue, you were here today when we played the video from Blue Ash. We're gonna get to that section, right? But the body camera from the officer, and it showed Ashley on the video, right?
Yep.
And she was talking about that charge, and she said, right, that she...
And that right there is my biggest problem with him completely. I mean, he is not remorseful in the slightest, tiniest, littlest bit. It is, everything is her fault.
asked me to reduce the charge, and that,
Yeah.
that's what she said.
I know that. But,
Now, let's go ahead and talk about August of '23. You seen her sworn affidavit? Showed that earlier today. That you suddenly snapped and punched her in the face and immediately started bleeding. Did that happen?
is this the Blue Ash one?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I had definitely been drinking that day, without a doubt.
Oh, you do admit that you were drinking?
Yes.
Okay, so the officer's observations that you had been drinking
Yeah.
were correct?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know what I was talking about with the pimple and all that. Later, when it sobered up, I remembered what happened. I was drunk. I fell asleep on a love seat. You know, we were in the hotel. We didn't have a big couch. It was a love seat. Fell asleep on it, so my legs were up in the air. And she came over to wake me up and like smacked my leg, and I jerked and kicked her right in the face. Or I might have punched her. See, I'm not quite sure, but I remember her coming over, smacking my leg, and then me jerking, and then all of a sudden she was bleeding.
So not
Would it be fair
the
to
mattress?
characterize that as
I don't
an
understand.
Sure would.
Okay, so that time was an accident, is that
Yeah.
right?
But if I wouldn't have been drinking, I'm sure it wouldn't have happened.
So...
Oh, this was a
so I
different time?
understand, All that interaction that we saw with the detective, or with the officer that was on the video earlier today, where you said she picked her nose until it bled, that wasn't true.
I just said I don't know why I said that for. I was drunk.
Well, I think you're kind of trying to make it sound like you had forgotten at the time the police were there, but then later you remember.
Yeah, because I was still drunk. I was foggy in the head.
Well, I mean, Mr. Back, I agreed that you were drinking, as I think the officer recognized that, but you didn't seem to have any difficulty walking on your own and getting in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't seem to have any difficulty talking with Officer Bronner and being responsive to questions.
And being loud and disrespectful as well.
But I'm saying you weren't blackout drunk, were you, Mr. Back?
No, I don't do that.
So it wasn't like you forgot what happened with Ashley 3 minutes before they got there.
I wasn't thinking clearly.
So is it your testimony today that in fact she did have an injury to her face?
Her nose was bleeding.
Today you're willing to admit that her nose was bleeding?
I didn't say that it wasn't then. If you listen to the video, I said she picked her nose. I knew blood was coming from her nose. And in the beginning of that video, it shows me saying that it was from the nose, not from the zip.
So just so we're clear, you recall now accident.
I think she probably punched herself to help the prosecutor overcharge with his agenda.
Mentally hurting her on August the 26th of 2020.
I recall it the next day when I sobered up in the jail.
But today you remember that, not just the next day when you
Well,
woke
yeah,
up in the
of course.
Hamilton County Jail. We're
course I
talking about
remember.
today you remember that happened.
Yes.
And you didn't, at the time, you didn't say, I accidentally hit her, did you?
No, I was confused and frightened, to be honest, because I really didn't want to go right back to jail.
In fact, on that day, you also claimed that you have never hit her.
Yeah. I've never purposely hit my wife.
So in terms of her going to Bethesda North Hospital on the next day, she had a good reason to go there, right? Because she'd gotten hit in the face.
Yeah. So we have Medicaid. Why not go get it checked out?
But let's just be clear what she said, what she told the police that night, was that you snapped.
If you guys ever get me in court and you lie about me, can you please just never lie that I'm picking my nose or popping pimples? Please, that would be lovely. Thank you.
You two had been arguing about you not going to work.
Oh,
Hold on.
sure.
You two were arguing about you not going to work, and you snapped and you punched her in the face. She used the word punched.
That's not what happened.
Your testimony is that did not occur.
Yeah. Well, my
And-
testimony is what I just said.
Well, and so your statement is that when Ms. Klinker told that to the police and when she wrote that in her affidavit, that she wasn't telling the truth.
Yeah, she was upset. She exaggerates when she gets upset.
I never exaggerate.
So your lawyer kind of asked this question about the next day when she went to Bethesda to get pain medication, that Ms. Klinker has some sort of pain pill addiction, or she has some kind of drug-seeking behavior.
No, and the ones that came,
I'm sorry, did you object?
Yes,
Okay. What's the basis of your objection?
it's a complete mischaracterization. I've asked several healthcare providers, because it was repeatedly brought up about the 0 to 10. If people do occasionally, I never stated that Ms. Klinker has an addiction.
Okay. Maybe just rephrase the
Sure.
question, please.
Well, just so we're clear, so that we clarify Mr. Gibbs' general question. Ashley Klinker doesn't have a drug problem, right? She doesn't have a pain pill addiction.
no, she has a drinking problem. She does not have
She
it.
didn't go to the hospital asking for pain medication because she had drug seeking.
I didn't really even know that she went to Bethesda because I was in jail at the time.
But you've known her for 5 years, Mr. Back.
She does not have a
Answer the
drug
question.
problem.
Does she have a
I
drug
already
problem
did.
or no?
I've already answered it twice.
Okay. I know it's not easy. Wait for him to finish his question and then answer. Do you remember the question?
Yeah, I've already answered.
Okay, go ahead.
The
and
answer is no, she does not have a drug problem.
Thank you.
And actually, the ones that she just got in this most recent thing, I guarantee she still has them at the house.
Yeah, okay. I'll consider that just a supplement to your answer. Otherwise, wait till the next question.
Now, let's talk about what happened on July the 24th. I want to make sure that I am clear about this as you described it, okay? You were moving Haley's mattress into the apartment.
It was already in there. We were moving other stuff in at the time.
Okay. You moved the mattress so you could move other things?
Well, I mean, you have to, we had to get all the big stuff out of the truck. And I needed my brother to do that. He wanted to leave. So we got all the big stuff out, and then all the totes and stuff were in her car. So then we were bringing them in.
Okay. Is the mattress, because of the apartment, was the mattress typically in the dining room leaning
It had
against?
just got put there like an hour before that
Okay. Where was it before?
in the storage unit.
Okay, so it was one of the items that you had
Yes.
moved. Okay, that's what I was trying to get.
Yes.
Okay. And this dining room table, is it
It's
in the
been
mid?
in there.
Hold on and let me finish the question, Mr. Back. Okay? Is it in the middle of the dining room? Is it against a wall?
It's against the outside wall.
Okay. And so this mattress, you described it as a queen size mattress,
Yep.
right?
It's white and got flowers on it.
Big enough for two people,
Yeah.
right?
We
Not
sleep
a
on it
box.
all the
Hold
time.
on.
Answer any
I'm
questions.
trying my best to frame the questions as yes and no questions. I'm not trying to be difficult with you, Mr. Pack. I've just got some questions you need. If you can answer them, great. If you can't answer them, also fine. Mattress, not box.
Yay,
It's
Smurf!
not a hard wooden frame with springs in it.
No, the soft, that's heavy.
Okay, and
I
so
don't
this
know.
mattress is leaned against.
I don't know how it works.
That's against at about waist height. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a pretty high table.
Okay, and it's leaned against the table, and is the top of it leaned against the wall?
No.
Okay, so it's
See, that was the
standing up.
problem. Yeah, that was the problem. There was this much of, this is the table. There's only this much of the mattress touching the table. The rest of it's freestanding. That's where the problem began.
Okay, and I think you said you didn't really see what Ashley was doing. Is that
I
right?
wasn't paying attention to what she was doing because I was carrying the big tote.
Okay.
And I was trying to get between them. I'm not sure what she was going through. But she was right by where we just set a bunch of the totes down.
And I think you said she was bent over. Is that right?
Yeah, she was about to get into something.
Okay. So, but she was standing on her feet and she was bent over.
Yeah.
Okay. And
You know, both could be true. The mattress absolutely could have fallen and hit her. And she could have, fell down or into the tote or whatever. And then he got into a fight with her and punched her in the face and broke her skull.
was she, this table's against the wall, mattress against the table,
Yeah.
right? And where was she in relation to the mattress?
So about from say she's the wall, the mattress is about right here. It's about that wide.
Just, there's always a chance that this will be transcribed, it may or may not be. But when you're reading about this, so just, for example, give an estimate in feet as well.
3.5 feet, maybe?
Okay.
And you said that you came and you bumped it accidentally.
Yeah.
Right? And so the mattress fell forward. How did it fall?
It was on my left, she was on my right. I bumped it, and it fell behind me, because I was walking past it with the tote. And it fell behind me, and I set the tote down to help her as soon as I could.
Okay. And so, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear, you are the person who bumped the mattress,
Yes.
not her.
Right, she was 3.5 feet away.
Because I was listening to your statement to Officer Williams on July the 25th, and I thought you told him that she brushed it.
No.
Should we listen to that?
Hey, go ahead. I don't remember saying that, because that's not what happened.
I'm going to play for you just excerpt of States 22, what's marked as States 22. Ah, dang it.
Ninja mattress. That was rude.
Yeah, I'm just gonna fast forward this to about 1:35. Might be out of school.
Hi, Crystal.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to an attorney. You cannot afford an attorney. One will be provided for you. If you decide to answer questions now without an attorney present, you'll still have the right to stop answering at any time until you talk to an attorney. Do you understand the rights that I wish you?
Yeah.
With these rights in mind, you wish to speak with me.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So why is she like?
Because yesterday we were moving, we finished up our storage area, and there was a mattress, queen size mattress, sitting up against the dining room table.
Okay.
She walked by and brushed it. It fell and hit her in the back, and she hit her.
Okay. That was yesterday. Why she
Yes,
missed
last
that?
night. Because she felt fine last night. She was feeling fine. Like she slept okay.
Okay.
I didn't hear her.
So you guys live together? So you get mail. What's your
We'll admit that, and we'll let the judge listen to it. But if you told Officer Williams that she's the one who bumped the mattress,
Then I misspoke.
that's not what happened, right?
Right, I misspoke. If that's what I said, then I misspoke in a stressful situation. Like earlier when I said I was married to my son's wife.
Now, during your direct testimony, I think you said too on July the 24th that the two of you were not arguing about her staying at a friend's house, right?
I didn't care. I didn't like.
Excuse me.
I thought he was done.
Just from, well, he was, but he asked you, basically he said, the two of you were not arguing is what you were saying.
No, we weren't.
And you were present in court at the preliminary hearing on August the 1st, right?
Yeah.
And Ashley, she testified, right? Your lawyer called her as a witness for you right?
Yep.
And she was placed under oath, right?
Correct.
Just like she was yesterday.
Yep.
And in fact, yesterday, she said the two of you had been arguing about, right, after she came back from staying at Austin and Lily's house.
I believe what she said was I was really sad that she wasn't home with me.
Well, I mean,
Pretty sure that's what she said.
so when she told...
Excuse me, Mr.
Sorry.
View. Keep your voice up a little, please.
Oh, okay, sorry, I mumbled.
And then, yeah, you do, and then if you, once you finish your answer, wait for the next question instead of just continuing to mumble. It's just difficult to follow you.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So you were present in court on August the 1st when she told Magistrate Zose, under her testimony, that the two of you had been arguing about it, being her staying at Austin and Lily's house, all day. That the two of you had been arguing about it all day.
Yeah, I was there.
You didn't hear her say that?
I said I was there. If that's what was said, then I remember
Okay.
that.
I just want to, so she
I don't
said that
remember.
August 1st, she said it yesterday. Today, you saying, no, we didn't have any arguments at all? I mean, you were arguing about, where I'm going to put the tote or something, right?
Well, that was the next day.
Okay. So again, I guess I'm left asking, was Miss Klinker making that up?
No, I was sad and confused because we never, we're together constantly. We never spend the night apart. We don't do that. So I was confused why she was doing it. I get it because it was her, like he's like a brother to her. So he wanted to be with them the night before their wedding. So I get it. And then she got drunk and fell asleep. But I wish she would have Ubered home.
Okay. You were here yesterday, I mean, you've been here throughout this whole trial, where in the hospital when you weren't there, that Ashley
It can't happen again, guys. This cannot be happening again. I'm just going to wait a second before I press play. Hopefully you can hear me. 2 days in a row. Okay, there we go. We got... Breathe. I'm going to backtrack 10 seconds.
that Ashley told the nurse that a mattress didn't fall on her, but that you assaulted her.
She said she never said that.
No, in fact, what she did say was that she felt manipulated into saying that,
Yeah.
but admitted that she did say it.
She's not really sure what she said. She was drunk and her blood sugar was 56.
But you weren't in the room. You don't know what she said to those people.
I'm just saying what she told me.
But even if she was manipulated, even if she had her blood sugar wrong, even if she'd had 6 bottles of wine to drink in the last 2 days, even if she was on oxycodone, if she said that's what happened, you're saying no, it didn't.
Yeah, it did not happen.
So if that's what she said, that's not true.
I'm not
according
going
to
to
you.
change what I said. You know, that's what the truth is. I'm not changing my statement.
I'm not asking you to change your statement. I understand where you're coming from. So the last thing I want to talk with you about, right? So we kind of covered this. But when Ashley was here on the stand yesterday morning, you kind of talked about your relationship. And she described your relationship as loving, as caring, as supportive.
Mm.
And do you agree with that?
Yeah, we complement each other very well.
Bye,
And
CJ.
if I understand this loving and caring relationship, 5 times in the last 4 years, this woman has made up stories claiming that you assaulted her.
The first 4 times, I was drunk and she was drunk. This last time, I was not.
Regardless of who was drunk, she
I'm saying,
said, hold on.
Sorry, I caught myself.
Regardless of who was drunk or not, she did say it, right?
Yeah.
And each one of those times the police came, put cuffs on you, and they took you to the, right, they arrested you.
Under the influence, people will say and do stupid things sometimes.
Oh, he just apologized. Did you hear that? He apologized. He does feel remorse. Finally.
And after 5 times of calling the police and lying about you being violent with her, on November 7th of last year, you married her.
She only called the police 4 times, correct? I'm just checking my facts here. Right? Because she didn't call the police this time. So she only called the police 4 times.
Thank you, Mr. Back. I appreciate your attempts at answering my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. View. Any redirect, Mr. Gibbs?
No redirect, but I would like to, at this time, orally submit a motion for judgment of acquittal on the first charge of felonious assault.
Okay, well, first of all, the state rested, right?
We did rest, and for the record, we defense counsel and I reviewed the exhibits and came to an agreement on those, and I did provide them to Dina before we left for the break. For the record, without objection from defense counsel, we moved to admit states 1, states 2, sorry, I'll slow down, Judge. So states 1 is the medical records. States 2 is the photo of the injuries on July the 25th, 2024. States 3 is Officer Williams' front seat cruiser video from July the 25th of 2024. States 8, certified copy of the prior conviction. States 9, the CD of Officer Bronner's body camera video from August the 26th, 2023. States 10, a still photo of the body camera depicting the victim's injuries on August the 26th of 2023. States 11, a copy of the victim's witness statement from August 26th of 2023. States 12, Bethesda North medical records for the victim dated August 27th of 2023. States 13, CD of the 911 call placed by Ms. Klinker on May the 21st of 2023. States 15 was the CD of Deputy Palmer's cruiser video dated May the 21st of 2023. State 16, photo of Ms. Klinker's injuries on May the 21st of 2023. States 17, copy of her victim statement dated May 21st, 2023. States 18, copy of her victim's witness statement on May the 11th of 2022. States 19, a copy of her witness statement on June the 17th of 2021. And states 20 is a photo of the injury to her wrist, her left wrist, on June 17th of 2020.
Okay, now I do remember at the time thinking, maybe you didn't hear the word state rest, but that the state had rested, and then you were proceeding with your proof.
I'm sorry, my intention on that was figuring that the testimony from the defendant could be relevant to a portion of the states and possibly open up an argument against. And again, the basis of my motion would be just specifically for the element of significant physical harm required under the felonious assault statute.
Okay, so basically and I'm not trying to play any games here, I'm just saying, we're kind of backdating your Rule 29 motion to the point where the state rested and then you call your witness, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm going to overrule your motion. Considering the evidence and the light most favorable to the state, I think it's reasonable to conclude that this is serious physical harm. There's a series of cases, and one specifically deals with broken orbital bone. State versus Taylor, 2023 case. But there seems to be a lot of cases which include State versus Boyd out of Montgomery County, 2nd District, State versus Brown, and State versus Gibson, that indicate a broken bone in and of itself can be considered serious physical harm. There's cases, State versus Hampton, citing multiple case law precedent and finding that one punch delivered suddenly and without provocation and with enough force to produce a brain bleed indicated that there was serious physical harm. State versus Vyers dealt with a brain bleed and broken ribs. State versus Brooks, brain bleed and broken nose. So I think there's sufficient evidence at the conclusion of the state's evidence.
Sounds like it.
At the conclusion of the state's evidence to overrule the motion for a Rule 29 motion on that issue. Is there anything else you wanted to say on that?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, state's rested. Do you have any objection to exhibits 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20?
No, Your Honor, we have no objection.
Okay, those exhibits will be admitted without objection. And you've called your witness. Do you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, at this point, the defense rests.
Okay, sir, you may step down. Mr. View, does the state have any rebuttal witness?
We have no other additional witnesses to call in rebuttal, but I would offer States 22, which was the front seat camera from Officer Williams that we played during cross-examination of the defendant's statement.
Any objection?
No objection.
Okay, so Exhibit 22 will be added to the list that we just went over and admitted without objection. Okay, do you need any time before you start your closing arguments, either of you?
No, Your Honor.
I'm prepared to begin, John.
Okay. Let's begin.
Yo, either everybody fell asleep or Vipers are actually watching the court video today.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll begin by state's burden of proof as to the two counts that remain in the case, felonious assault and domestic violence as a felony of the fourth degree. State evidence proves, as statements of the victim made to medical personnel as documented in the medical records, that the defendant on July the 24th, 2024, assaulted her, struck her in the face, causing 3 orbital bone fractures, one on the outside of her eye, one on the inside, and one on the lower area. And additionally, the blow was with such force as to cause a subarachnoid hemorrhage, a tear and bleeding inside her skull, in the lower, not even the upper dermal layer, but in a lower dermal layer, causing a brain bleed. Now, the court has listened to the evidence of the testimony of the witnesses over the last 2 days. The state has given a lot of concern or thought to how do you approach the evidence in this case when Ms. Klinker has taken the stand and given testimony to the court contrary to that claiming that this was an accident. And that also was the defendant's statement. They are in agreement that this was an accidental injury. And so I think when I approached it, when I began to think about this, and what I encouraged the court to do in looking at the evidence, is thinking about this the way that we think about child physical abuse cases involving infants or those that cannot speak for themselves. Homicide cases where a victim is not able to come forward and give an account of how this occurred. And the answer to that is we have to look to the uncontroverted types of evidence. And how do they speak to what the other statements and surrounding circumstances are in the case? I don't know really how to give an account for Ms. Klinker. I think that the court has had an opportunity to sort of, one, to evaluate her as a witness before you. But I think the court has a lot of facts to use in judging her credibility in this matter. Why she would want to come forward to the court.
I wish I would have gotten her testimony, but I didn't. But normally, normally if the victim doesn't cooperate with the prosecutor, they just really have a shitty time and putting their case on. But I don't know, we've seen a lot of evidence this time that I don't really think they needed her at all. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe she knocked over the mattress while picking a pimple in her nose, and maybe the judge is just gonna believe that because she must have said on the stand that he didn't do anything to her.
And give a statement that this was an accident. One, her complete and total financial dependence on the defendant. And that's a dependence that's been going on for years now, really since 2020. We know when she has not worked consistently throughout that time. She is nearly entirely financially dependent. And you heard it even from the defendant himself. If he's not there to provide for her, she's homeless. That puts her in a very difficult situation to respond to the things that he has done. It's also apparent that she has a severe and significant emotional dependence upon him. She has, I don't know how to speak to, I think the vision that she must have of herself as a person who is so helpless and so dependent upon someone who would treat her this way, that she would have to do this. But frankly, her statement is not in any way credible on that point. You don't have to listen to Ashley Klinker for very long to know where she's coming from, to understand that when the questions get hard, that she becomes evasive. And she does that because she doesn't want to face the truth of these things as well. I'm sure does love Mr. Beck. I'm sure she does have affection for him in some way that may be difficult for many of us to understand. And I think that she probably does not want him to get in trouble, either for concern for him or for her own self-interest in terms of the things that she needs from him and the dependence that she has on him. But when you look at the actual uncontroverted physical evidence of the things in the case, they are consistent with the assault that happened in this case.
Hi, Sonel.
When she is away from Mr. Beck, when she was protected from him in the triage area, when she expressed to the nurses, right? They're just going down through a checklist, right? When she had an opportunity to try to protect herself, she said, "No, I'm not safe. Yes, I am in danger." Just enough of a window to open in that. Yes, I have been assaulted. Yes, if I go back to him, I'm in danger again. I need to talk privately to the doctor about this.
Hi,
There's a
KB.
reason why every single person, from the first triage nurses through her care nurse through discharge, did not believe this account of an accidental injury. And that's because the injury has all the hallmarks of an assault. Their account of this as an accident is not borne out by any of the rest of her injuries. If she had fallen face first into something, if she had struck a piece of furniture, if she had hit the ground, if she had hit plastic tubs, it would not have been with sufficient force to have multiple fractures that were localized and specified around one specific area of her face. She had no injuries to her nose, nothing on her chin, cheeks, forehead, nothing on her shoulders, hips, elbows, wrists where she would maybe break her fall, nothing. Not scrapes, not bruises. We're talking about enough force to cause an internal brain injury, traumatic brain injury, and multiple fractures, and there's nothing else? Nothing? Not even a complaint of my wrist hurts or, I've got... And that's because she only got hurt in one place. And it happened by one person with one very brutal assault. One very brutal punch localized on her face. And I don't think it's an accident at all. I don't think the court should believe that it's an accident, because the court has rightfully made the ruling that when there is this claim of accidental injury, the court can look at the history to rebut that claim. And what you have is 5 years of progressively more controlling and violent assaults against Ms. Klinker. You can see when you look back at those cases where she was in 2021. They'd only been dating for living together for about a year, and at that time she had enough to say, this is not okay. You can't just like grab me and throw me down, and I'm embarrassed this happened in front of my daughter. This cannot happen. But you know what? He told her he was sorry, right? It wasn't that big of a deal. They ended up going to Mason, and the charge got reduced to a disorderly conduct. And what she continued to be able to live with him and have a place for her daughter. She has these legitimate concerns for wanting her daughter to go to school. But what he learned was, if I'm violent with her, she'll put up with it. So the next time, a year later, when he puts his hands around her throat, this time it's not just pushing, it's not shoving her down, it's not being rough with her, it scared her. Because he said he was going to kill her. And so she had to call. But again, it wasn't a serious injury, right? It wasn't anything that was long term. I'm sure he apologized to her. She stayed with him. 2023, he again strangles her. Where police officers can see the red marks on her neck. And the court's you've been practicing law for a long time, seen a lot of cases. You know, the photographs don't always justify what officers see, particularly on things like that. But you heard her 911 call on that. You heard her expressing that fear of, he said he was going to kill me. And you know what? Somebody believed her. This had to stop because it kept going back to Mason. Step wasn't getting in trouble. It kept getting worse. And in 2023, despite what he says, he stood up here, this exact podium, looked you in the face and said, I'm guilty, I did that. Ms. Klinker had again begged. You heard her on the video, on the body camera. She had begged to have the charges reduced so that he would not get a felony, and the felony in response to that. And again, he ended up with a reduced charge. But you heard our testimony. I told her in 2023, we have different priorities. We have different concerns. She rightfully has concerns for her daughter, for her living condition, feeding herself. Me, I have to be concerned if she's going to live for another year. And I told her that then. And that's why we agreed to have him plead on the lower charge, because any other charge coming back now is going to be a felony. Going to have to come back in front of the judge again. And we're going to be right here. And a year later, that's where we are. It didn't even take a year, because within a month of being released before he was sentenced on that charge, he assaulted her in Blue Ash. His own statement to you, Judge, he admitted during his release pre-sentencing he had been drinking, and he, I think, accidentally, apparently kicked her or hit her. But what's her statement? She didn't want him to get in trouble. She knew he was not supposed to be drinking, and she wanted him to do the things that were part of the deal that we made. She wanted him to go to treatment. She wanted him to stop drinking. She wanted him to be a good partner. But he couldn't do it. He showed that right away. She was afraid. You heard her on the video. She told Officer Bronner she was afraid to call. She didn't want him to get in trouble. Mr. Back is not able to do that. And the worst possible outcome occurred finally in July of 2024. That the years of abuse had escalated to the point where we have this really brutal assault, serious physical injury to her. But when you look back at that, you have to decide, was this an accident? You are permitted by law to look at those things and say, this was no accident, it was nearly inevitable. Your Honor, I ask you to review first and foremost the testimony of the witnesses that we interacted with Ms. Klinker on July the 25th and 26th of 2024, because they had an opportunity when she was protected, when she was separated from Mr. Back, she had the courage to make some effort to protect herself and admitted what he had done. Those are captured within the records. They are contained within the statements that you heard from all the medical professionals here and from Officer Reed. That in and of itself is sufficient to convict the defendant of the 2 counts. If the court needs anything else to decide whether or not this was accidental, that some mattress fell on her in some magic bullet kind of way that just happened to hurt her in one place, look at the other evidence. You can reject that. He is guilty of felonious assault, and he is guilty of domestic violence. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Mr. Gibbs.
Your Honor, it is our position that this case fundamentally hinges on 2 key issues. First off, did Mr. Back intentionally harm Ms. Klinker on July 24th, 2024? And second, if so, does that harm rise to the level required under Ohio law for a conviction of felonious assault? The testimony presented paints a clear picture. This was an unfortunate accident, not an assault. Both Mr. Back and Ms. Klinker, who are the only 2 people who testified who were present at the time, have the same recollection of the situation and describe it in the same manner. Despite the prosecution's referring to children or people that are mentally incapacitated, Ms. Klinker has no mental incapacity. She is an adult. She speaks for herself under oath. Mr. Back there's no capacity issues here to where they would be unable or require a guardian ad litem or something. They came and they swore under oath and provided an account that aligned consistently that it was an accidental event and not an intentional act of violence.
I know it's
the other
disappointing.
witnesses, while certainly well-intentioned service providers, were not present. Their testimony is based solely on Ms. Klinker's statements made while she was in significant pain, understandably anxious, admittedly under the influence of both alcohol and oxycodone. These factors cast serious doubt as to the credibility of statements uttered under that influence, and the understandable pressure that Ms. Klinker had to conform to a narrative that was not her own. One thing I'll note in particular is seemingly Ms. Klinker has no hesitation with calling 911 if she feels that she has been physically wronged by Mr. Back or seemingly anyone. And yet there was no 911 call. There was none because this was an accident. And I have no doubt that if there was an intentional act, 911 would have been the responding agency. It wouldn't have been an ambulance the next day. There's no independent corroboration of an assault, no video, no audio, nothing to contradict the consistent testimony of the only 2 eyewitnesses. Therefore, it is our position that we believe the prosecution has failed to meet its burden in proving intent beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, we can certainly look and see these old cases, and yeah, I'll be the first to admit, they don't look good. You look at some of these old cases, and in my opinion, that may even raise it to more likely than not in your heart or in your gut. But does a history prove beyond a reasonable doubt when the only witnesses present are saying that's not what happened? And it would be our position that it does not. However, even if this court finds Mr. Back on the issue of intent to be guilty, it is our position that the evidence presented still falls short of demonstrating serious physical harm as defined by Ohio law. As established in State v. Bishop, and I believe referred to in your questions to the doctor.
It just doesn't, what he's saying doesn't fit what we've seen. We saw the police there. We saw the body cam. We saw the fresh blood. That wasn't the next day where she called an ambulance. That was the night of. So how did the police get there if there was no 911 call? I don't understand. They took him to jail that night. We saw them take him. I don't understand.
Serious physical harm encompasses specific significant consequences such as mental illness requiring hospitalization, physical harm carrying a substantial risk of death, permanent or substantial temporary incapacity, permanent or serious temporary disfigurement, or acute pain resulting in substantial suffering or prolonged intractable pain. The evidence presented does not meet this high standard. Ms. Klinker has testified herself that she has no residual medical problems from this impact from this event. Her treating physician testified that this was not severe enough to be admitted to the hospital and said that depending on the level of intensity of it, that is something they consider and look at, and Ms. Klinker was never admitted to the hospital. This court should also be mindful of the distinction between felonious assault and domestic violence as highlighted in State v. Wilson and subsequent cases. A finding of guilt for felonious assault is a separate and distinct matter from a finding of guilt for domestic violence. Even if this court was to find Mr. Back guilty of domestic violence, again, it would be our position that the element of serious physical harm remains unproven for a conviction of felonious assault. In conclusion, we ask this court to carefully consider the evidence, the consistent testimony of the only two eyewitnesses, the lack of any independent corroboration of an assault, and the failure to establish serious physical harm all point to one inescapable conclusion. Mr. Back is not guilty of felonious assault. We urge this court to dismiss this charge and, based on the totality of the evidence, to also dismiss the charge of domestic violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. Mr. View, any rebuttal?
Wait, it couldn't have been a prior incident because remember he was saying it was a pimple and then he changed it to mattress. And he said that him saying it was a pimple was just because he was drunk, but then he said he wasn't drunk.
Just to respond to a couple of those, I know the court has already addressed the issue, I think, of serious physical harm in terms of the case law related to that, but just pointing to the evidence contained within the case, clearly there are multiple skull fractures, orbital bone fractures, as well as the subarachnoid hemorrhage. In and of themselves, those fractures, those requiring that level, emergency room medical level of treatment would qualify as serious physical harm. But additionally, that clearly under the pain, and this is a factual question because there's not a statutory definition of what prolonged or protracted means, but certainly I think the court can make a factual finding that she was injured by the defendant's statement 9 p.m. on the 24th. She didn't go to the hospital until 4 p.m. on the 25th. So we've got, we got a day and almost a full day before she goes there. And when she arrives at the hospital, even after taking pain medication at home, even after icing at home, she's expressing that pain is a 10 out of 10. It is the worst pain that she has ever felt. And that pain level continues through her medical assessment, pain assessments for hours, even after she's been given powerful pain medications like oxycodone, which she was given repeatedly during the time she was there and was also prescribed for her to continue after she left. Additionally, I think the court should review the full medical records, particularly the discharge information, because there's a lot of information. She did not leave the hospital, see you later. She left the hospital with orders to continue to, there was an additional consult for neurology. She was supposed to return for ortho. There was a surgical consult. So her medical treatment was not finished. This was not a, I mean, she was there for like 8 hours, which in and of itself is a protracted, prolonged period of time. But her medical care for this injury went on well beyond that. Your Honor, in terms of the questions of Ms. Klinker and why she chose to do the things that she did or didn't do, I feel like I've addressed that question. I think the court has had an opportunity to understand what are the pressures and motivations that she has in terms of a decision whether or not to call 911 at 9 o'clock on the 24th, as opposed to going and seeking medical care for the significant pain from the injury that she was in. But this court knows they've had, this defendant was on supervision at the time. They understand the consequences of calling law enforcement. The defendant and Ms. Klinker, they know, I mean, you've seen it in the statements that she made to Blue Ash, right? She understands that if she calls and says he did this again, he's going back before this court. He's going back to jail. She may lose her house again. Her daughter may have to move again. She doesn't have a way to feed herself. So those are a lot of things to consider, a lot of reasons perhaps to wait a whole nother day to see how bad really is this. Did he really hurt me that bad? And I think her reaction when she finds out the answer to that is a lot. I think the court can rely on that. When the CT scan results were returned and she found out how actually seriously he had hurt her this time, and her emotional reaction to that, and his hanging his head, because they know now this isn't something they're just going to walk out and nobody's going to call the police about. That is what she's dealing with. Those are the choices that she's making, and perhaps they are not the choices that many of us would make in those situations. But this is Ms. Klinker and Mr. Back's life for years. They are living within that realm of choices for them. But they don't excuse Mr. Back. They just don't. All they do is enable him to continue to abuse her. Your Honor, again, I ask you to review the evidence, testimony, particularly of the medical professionals who interacted with Ms. Klinker on that day, Officer Reed, the statements that Ms. Klinker gave, and compare that to the medical evidence, what it is, what her injury was, the type of force, the amount of force that would have been necessary to cause such an injury. And if you remember the testimony of Dr. Kreitzer, when she was talking about the types of forces involved, it is blunt force assault or car accidents were the type of forces she was talking about that would result in this type of injury. This is not a fall from standing, certainly not a fall from already bending over close to the ground.
Hi,
that
Donald.
kind of force from a soft object falling on her, that the mattress itself is going to absorb some of that force. That doesn't even make sense. It didn't make sense to Jennifer Wiseman. It didn't make sense to Karen Gala. It didn't make sense to Dr. Kreitzer. And it shouldn't make sense to you, because that's not what happened. Benjamin Back assaulted her. He committed a felonious assault, committed a domestic violence, and he should be found guilty of both of those. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. View. Pam, would you give me the exhibits, please? I'm going to take a break, and we'll return to the courtroom. Just a couple of things I want to review in the exhibits. I've listened to the testimony, the arguments of counsel. So we'll reconvene here shortly.
Thank you,
We're in
Judge.
recess.
This court of common pleas is again in session.
And now look where she's sitting. Yep. Now she's standing behind her man.
Seated.
All right, we are back on the record. I've considered the evidence and the arguments of counsel. There were a couple of things I wanted to double check in the exhibits. I don't need to address that much of what was brought up by the attorneys, but I will just tell you that when I considered the evidence in light of the testimony of Ms. Klinker, I want to make sure additionally that it's clear that the evidence presented of prior acts was considered only for the purpose of determining whether or not this was an accident. I've not considered it for any other reason. One of the things that has occurred to me over the years of trying to learn about some of the things we deal with is our midbrain, and that being the center of where our survival instinct exists. And I think that explains a lot of what we've heard from Ms. Klinker. She's acting out of a survival instinct. I think the state has the burden of proving this case beyond a reasonable doubt. I've considered the evidence. I've also can't help but consider the problems that can arise from any verdict in the case. And sometimes the verdict will have a negative impact on the victim. This is a volatile situation, but in good conscience, I have to look at the evidence and make a decision without considering how it affects people so much. I find that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Back is guilty of domestic violence and felonious assault. Therefore, the verdict is guilty as to both counts. I do want some additional time to think about how to address this. I've got a prior pre-sentence investigation of Mr. Back, but I'll give counsel time to address anything that may have changed since then. I have noticed that once he was released previously, that there has been some improvement. So at this point, we're going to set this for sentencing. Considering everything that I've seen and heard in this case, things have changed. Mr. Back has now been convicted, and it's time for him to go into custody. So we will reconvene for sentencing at a later date. Anything further from the state at this time?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Gibbs.
But wait, there's more.
Your Honor, I was hoping that with any sort of conviction that we would appeal, and hopefully I could remain
Yes, sir.
appeal with the appeal.
I'll inform you of your rights to appeal at sentencing. You do have a right to appeal. You have 30 days after the entry is filed at sentencing, so you'll have time.
Bail in that time?
I'm sorry?
Can I not stay out on bail in that time? I will go to work, I will behave myself, I will do everything possible.
I understand.
Everything will maintain the
understand
status
that.
quo.
Well, I thought about that, and I thought about what's happened in this case
I will
And
show up to everything. I will not do anything out of line, sir. I assure you. I want to make sure that she's in a good place before I have to go away. I want to make sure she's set up. If she doesn't have a job, if you could give us like a month so she can find a job, and then at least in that time I can get my taxes filed. I'm still waiting on one W-2, so I can get that refund for her, and I can cash out my 401k if I need to. But I need to be out to be able to do that, Your Honor.
so
And she won't have money for the rent coming up, and without a little bit of time for her to find a job, she's not going to be able to maintain things. And I would like to, hopefully in some way, get this to where that I get the F2 appealed away at least, so that you would consider giving me work release. But I'll lose my job if I go today, and they will allow me. I've done work release through this company before. I know they will allow me to do it, but if I go away now, they will not, because I will instantly lose my job. Just please, Your Honor.
I've considered what could happen and several alternatives in this case, and in good conscience, I've made a decision that the time for this to end is now. Therefore, that's the ruling of the court.
I'm obliged by everything that you've given me, even on the probation for the previous case. I did the battery intervention, I did the drug and alcohol program. Everything you put in front of me to do, I've done.
I'll listen to that also at sentencing. All right. That's all.
You can't touch her. The guards just said. Sunil's okay, Donald. He's mad at the police, and he has every right to be. But he's going to get a lawyer to speak for him. Right, Sunil? You're going to get a lawyer to speak for you. They muted the courtroom, but I'm letting it play so we can see him. Go away. But I have to talk because if there's no sound, people freak out. Yeah, you can, Sunil, a lawyer. I'm on your side. You're probably right. You just need someone to speak for you. We've seen this man get pat down a lot today. I don't know if she's laughing or crying right now. It looks like she's smiling. Now she's crying. Wonder what's in that bag. Oh, now she's mad. You mad, bro? Okay, I know that was a little long today, but I didn't want to break it up and finish tomorrow. I wanted to get to the end today. So yeah, he didn't go to sentencing yet, so I don't have that. But I thought that was interesting. So maybe okay, I still think the story kept changing. But now that we've seen it all, maybe it was just different incidences. But I don't think so. I don't know. It was very, very, very confusing. Very confusing. But It doesn't matter. It's all water under the bridge now, and he's in jail without no bail till sentencing. All right. This should pop most of you, all of you, over to OJ. For those who stay for OJ, I'll see you in a moment. For everyone else, I hope you have a great, great, great day. Behave, okay? Thank you for watching this with me. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Got these life echoes, digital dreams. Through the screen, her blue eyes gleam. Wicked humor, sharp as a knife. Her stream sparks electric light. Late night when the world sleeps, she's the friend that always keeps. Giggles roll like thunder loud. She stands out in any crowd. Kathy's laugh cuts through the gloom. Eyes blue like a summer's bloom. Her humor, dark and twisted, sharp. In a way, there's no alarm. Street tales waiting to the night. Her laughter feels just right. Even when my world turns gray, with a giggle, she lights the way. Her eyes near a sky so blue. In her jokes, there's a truth so true. With each stream, she brings the light. Turns dark days into bright. Kathy's laugh cuts through the gloom. Eyes blue like a summer's bloom. Her humor, dark and twisted, sharp. In a way, there's no alarm. Streaming tales late into the night. Her laughter feels just right. Even when my world turns gray, with a giggle, she lights the way. Kathy's laugh